Leo soul, radiant heart, welcome. This week, the universe has a message for you, and it's not subtle. A powerful truth is rising to the surface, a goodbye is approaching, and just beyond it, a miracle is preparing to arrive. If you're watching this, it's not random. It's alignment. This message found you because you're meant to hear it. And what's coming between July 10th and 17th will shift everything. You may feel it already, that stirring in your chest, that quiet pressure in your gut, that pull towards something you can't yet name. That's not anxiety. That's preparation. You're on the edge of a major shift. One that begins with clarity, requires courage, and ends in celebration. Within this video, we're going to decode a potent wave of cosmic energy moving through your life right now. We'll explore how the angel numbers 444, 555, and 888 are not just coincidences but signposts, confirmations from your guides that your soul path is being redirected towards something more powerful, more true, and more you. Together, we'll dive deep into the meanings behind 5 major tarot archetypes appearing for you this week. Justice, Judgment, the High Priestess, 8 of Wands, and the Queen of Pentacles. Each of them will open a door to truth, to love, to purpose, and to the kind of success only a Leo was born to claim. You'll also learn how to work with this week's lucky colors: golden yellow, ivory white, and deep sapphire blue to elevate your frequency and attract exactly what your spirit is calling in. And of course, we'll break down the 6 numbers lighting up your path: 4, 5, 8, 14, 17, and 20, each connected to a phase of your breakthrough. But before we dive in, allow me to express something important. Thank you. Truly. For being here. For pressing play. For allowing this sacred space to be part of your journey. Every like, every comment, every subscription you offer strengthens the energetic bond between you and the Eternal Mindfulness community. And more than just building a channel, it builds a field where clarity is offered, healing is activated, and your path becomes illuminated. Leo, you are not watching this video by accident. Your presence is a response to a call deep inside your soul, a whisper saying, "It's time to rise." So stay with me until the end, because what the universe has to reveal in the final moments of this reading may change everything for you. Now, take a breath. Drop into your heart. And if something in you already feels the truth of this moment, comment below to affirm it. Tell me. I choose myself. I choose change. Because once you do, the entire universe begins to rearrange itself to match that decision. Let's begin. As you take your first steps into this week's unfolding energy, dear Leo, it may feel as though you're walking straight into the heart of a storm. There's wind whipping at your feet, and thunder rolls somewhere far away, not loud enough to frighten you, but deep enough to rattle the places in you that still fear change. And yet, if you pause long enough to look closely, there's something else in the air. A quiet gleam breaking through the clouds. A soft golden light just at the edge of the horizon. This is not a storm meant to destroy you, it is one meant to clear the path. What feels like chaos on the surface is, in truth, sacred alignment in motion. This is the essence of the angel number 444, which surrounds your field this week like a protective shield. In numerology, this number holds the vibration of structure, stability, and divine presence. But here's what most don't realize. before stability comes, there must be collapse. The walls that weren't built on truth have to fall. The roles you've outgrown must be released. The identities you've carried to please others can no longer stay. So when you feel the sting of endings this week, whether it's the closing of a relationship, the sudden halt of a project, or a quiet unraveling of belief, don't mistake it for failure. Recognize it for what it is, a blessing in disguise. A doorway. A shedding. Leo, your heart is brave. But even the bravest hearts get tired when asked to keep carrying what no longer nourishes them. That exhaustion you may be feeling? That strange grief you can't quite name? That's your soul preparing for release. And not just any release, but one that makes space for something far more aligned with your true essence. Imagine a tree in late autumn, not mourning the loss of its leaves, but surrendering them with grace, trusting that something deeper is being restored beneath the surface. You are that tree. You are in a sacred season of letting go. This kind of emotional transformation can feel disorienting, even destabilizing. And it's okay to admit that. Feel it fully. Anger, disappointment, loneliness, these emotions are not enemies. They are visitors, each one entering your space to sweep the dust from the corners of your soul. Let them come. Let them move through you like rain washes through dry earth. Let your tears, if they come, be the water that softens what has long been hardened. In these moments of undoing, stillness becomes your power. I invite you this week to rest. To slow down. To journal freely without censoring yourself. To sit in silence and ask your heart what it's truly been trying to say. As you listen more deeply, you may notice a subtle but profound shift begin to occur. Your pain transforms into presence. Your confusion becomes clarity. And what once felt like ruin begins to shimmer with renewal. There is a quiet teaching in this part of your journey. A truth whispered not by books, but by life itself: nothing real is ever lost. Only illusions fall away. This is not a time to rush ahead, fix, or figure it all out. This is a time to bow gently to the parts of your life that are falling away, and to honor the wisdom of impermanence. The more you allow what is ending to end, the more grace you make room for. Energy doesn't disappear, it simply changes form. And the energy that's leaving your life right now is being reconfigured into something that will serve you more fully. What you release with love will return to you in a higher vibration. What you surrender with trust will come back multiplied in ways your logical mind could never plan. So let yourself dissolve, just for a while. Let yourself feel what's breaking open. Because what breaks is not your soul, it's the shell around your soul. And when that shell finally cracks, the light inside you gets to shine through. There comes a moment in every soul's journey when balance begins to restore itself, not in the dramatic ways we might expect, but quietly, with precision and grace. This week, Leo, you are stepping into that moment. The presence of the Justice card in your reading isn't just about fairness in the worldly sense, it speaks to a deeper, more profound rebalancing of energy that has long been in motion, waiting patiently for this exact timing. In astrology, we look to the alignment of Venus and Saturn to understand this theme more intimately. Venus brings compassion, beauty, and heart-centered value. Saturn brings structure, karma, and long-term truth. When they interact, especially now, they activate an energetic return, where the unseen efforts you've made begin to crystallize into tangible form. You may not realize how long you've been sowing seeds in silence. All those moments you chose kindness over retaliation, the boundaries you set without applause, the ways you showed up for others even when you felt unseen, those acts weren't lost. They were recorded in the quiet ledger of the cosmos. And now, the scales begin to tip. What's beautiful here is that you don't need to chase justice. You only need to stand still enough to receive it. Sometimes, karmic restoration arrives in subtle yet significant ways. A message from someone who once misunderstood you. An email bearing unexpected good news. A financial reimbursement long forgotten. Or even an inner knowing that the truth no longer needs to be proven, it simply is. For some of you, this may involve an official matter, a contract, a legal decision, or a resolution you've been anxiously awaiting. For others, it's personal and private, the quiet healing of being seen for who you are after walking through long corridors of misjudgment or isolation. There is a timeless principle that says, "As you sow, so shall you reap." But the deeper wisdom behind this isn't transactional, it's transformative. You didn't give from a place of demand. You gave because your heart was aligned with integrity. That is the kind of energy that always finds its way home. And this week, it's coming home to you. You might be tempted to downplay this moment, to dismiss it as coincidence, or to keep giving without receiving. But I want to remind you, receiving is part of the sacred cycle. The inhale and the exhale. The giving and the return. There is no virtue in blocking your own blessings. Allow them in, Leo. They are not rewards, they are reflections of who you've always been. This rebalancing is not about revenge or triumph over others. True justice rarely looks like victory in the egoic sense. Instead, it feels like alignment. It feels like stillness. It feels like being able to breathe more freely, not because the world bowed to you, but because you finally bowed to yourself. When the external world begins to mirror the truth you've always held internally, that's when you know real justice has arrived. Think of it like a pendulum. Life swings between extremes, but eventually it returns to center. You are arriving at that center now. Not because you forced it, but because you endured long enough without breaking. You learned patience not as passivity, but as power. And in doing so, you cleared the way for the law of return to do its quiet, miraculous work. So if something beautiful, validating, or relieving appears for you this week, then question whether you deserve it. You do. Deeply. Unequivocally. And if you'd like to anchor this moment further, I invite you to reflect. What is something you gave your time, your love, your truth that you never received back? Write it down, speak it aloud, or share it in the comments if you feel called. Sometimes, simply acknowledging that offering releases it and clears the space for it to return in a higher form. You are not being rewarded, you are being realigned. And that, dear Leo, is far more powerful than any external validation. Sometimes, life doesn't tap you gently on the shoulder. It sends a wavy, a sudden surge of clarity, movement, or change, and before you even have time to make sense of it, you're already standing at a crossroad. That's the nature of the Eight of Wands. It doesn't wait for you to feel ready. It arrives swiftly, like a gust of cosmic wind, pushing open a door that's been closed for far too long. And this week, dear Leo, that energy is moving directly through your life. It's fast, it's precise, and it's asking for your full attention. You may receive a message, a phone call, or even a strange sign from someone you haven't thought about in ages. The form doesn't matter as much as the feeling. It brings a sense that something is about to accelerate. This isn't chaos. It's momentum. It's the universe aligning all the pieces behind the scenes and finally signaling, now. And when the timing hits like this, it's less about making the perfect decision and more about being brave enough to choose. Often, these pivotal moments are disguised as ordinary encounters, an email you almost ignored, a conversation with someone from your past, a social media post that lands in your lap at just the right moment. But beneath the surface, a deeper mechanism is at play. Synchronicity. Alignment. Cosmetic effect. And most importantly, an invitation, a chance to step out of the familiar rhythm and into the unknown, where transformation awaits. There's a certain tension that comes with these openings. On one hand, there's excitement, the thrill of possibility. On the other, there's grief, the ache of letting go. Because, let's be honest, change always asks us to release something. A routine. A role. A relationship. A belief about who we thought we were. And yet, this is the spiritual paradox. You can't receive with closed hands. You can't run forward if you're still looking over your shoulder. Sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is not to figure it all out, but to say, yes, and trust that your wings will expand in midair. This is a week for movement, both external and internal. Start by clearing space. Not just on your calendar, but in your energetic field. Unfollow the accounts that drain your joy. Donate the items you no longer resonate with. Organize your workspace not for productivity alone, but to reflect clarity of mind. When we make space physically, we signal to the universe that we're available for new energy. And sometimes, that's all it takes for momentum to begin. Even in how you nourish yourself this week, let it be a ritual of alignment. Choose foods that bring lightness and clarity: cashews, coconut water, oats, simple herbs. These aren't just nutrients, they're frequencies. They support a sharper mind, a clearer heart, a calmer nervous system, all of which you'll need to navigate what's coming next. Because even when change is beautiful, it can still be overwhelming. There's a teaching in the nature of impermanence that reminds us, everything we cling to was once unfamiliar. The job you're afraid to leave was once a risk you took. The relationship you now define yourself through was once a stranger's name. The identity you hold onto so tightly was once a seed you were brave enough to plant. And so it will be again. What you're being called toward now may feel uncertain, but so did every beautiful thing that came before it. This week is not about pushing or forcing. It's about responding with presence, with humility, and with the courage to follow the current rather than resist it. There is a current carrying you forward now, Leo. You don't have to control it. You only have to say yes to where it's asking you to go. If you're unsure how to begin, try writing this down as a sacred declaration. I am ready to let go of ____ so I can step into ____. Let this be your offering to the moment, a bridge between what has been and what is becoming. Say it out loud. Whisper it in the mirror. Breathe it into the center of your chest. And then wait, watch, and witness what begins to move. You were not born to stand still. You were born to lead with your heart, to rise with purpose, and to meet life when it calls you forward. And this week, Leo, it is calling. When life begins to speed up on the outside, it becomes even more essential to slow down on the inside. Amid the whirlwind of events, opportunities, and decisions, there's a softer voice asking to be heard, a quiet presence beneath the noise. That voice is your intuition, Leo. And this week, it's not whispering, it's calling. The High Priestess appears now as a reminder that not all answers arrive through logic or analysis. Some of the most important truths come as a feeling in your gut, a strange recurring dream, a flicker of knowing that has no clear source. And those are the truths worth leaning into. Intuition is not about magic. It's about attunement. It is the skill of listening to what's real before it becomes visible. In astrology, the High Priestess connects to lunar wisdom, to the waters of feeling and the undercurrent of energy flowing beneath every interaction. Numerologically, the presence of numbers like 2, 11, and 17 this week highlight a portal of inner alignment where healing and revelation begin within, long before they show up in the external world. These numbers carry frequencies of duality, mastery, and spiritual discernment. And they are pointing you inward. The truth is, you already know. You've known for a while. But like many of us, you've likely been trained to second-guess the messages that arise from stillness. To delay decisions until there's proof. To suppress what you feel in order to maintain what's familiar. But growth asks more of you now. It asks that you trust the wisdom inside your own chest, even if the world can't yet validate it. This week, pay attention to what your body tells you before your mind has a chance to overrule it. The tension in your shoulders when you speak with someone. The lift in your heart when a certain path is mentioned. The heaviness that lingers after you've said yes to something you never truly wanted. These are not coincidences. They're signals, your body as oracle, your inner world as compass. To deepen that awareness, I invite you into a simple, sacred practice. Each morning, before the rush of the day begins, place your hand gently over your heart and ask yourself, what do I need today in order to stay honest with my soul? Ask, then wait. Don't force the answer. It may arrive in the form of an image, a phrase, or simply a feeling. And whatever comes, trust that it's exactly what you were meant to hear. You might also choose to sit with this question. What am I still holding on to just because I'm afraid to lose it? Be gentle when the answer arrives. It may be a role you've outgrown. A person you've outpaced. An identity you've clung to out of fear. But when you name it, you loosen its grip. And that act alone is healing. There's a teaching that says the mind is like water. When it is still, it reflects clearly. When it is agitated, you cannot see your reflection. This week, create stillness. Not by escaping your responsibilities, but by meeting them with inner clarity. Light a candle in the morning. Choose clothing that feels like truth on your skin. Eat foods that don't clutter your energy. Ivory white, soft and expansive, can support you in this process, especially when worn or surrounded by it during journaling or reflection. And if emotions arise as you tune in, let them. Grief, tenderness, even joy may surface without explanation. That is the nature of deep knowing. It does not demand a story. It simply asks to be felt. You are not being asked to act yet. You are being asked to listen. Because the answers you're seeking are not outside you. They are already within, waiting patiently to be remembered. And once you hear them clearly, Leo, you will not just move, you will move in the direction of your deepest truth. There is a moment, Leo, when all the silent labor of the heart finally blooms into something visible. This week, you may feel that moment arriving not as a sudden spectacle, but as the kind of recognition that settles deeply into your bones, the kind that affirms, yes, everything I carried in silence was worth it. The appearance of the Queen of Pentacles, the Four of Wands, and the Six of Wands signals more than just a surface-level celebration. This is a sacred acknowledgement. You are being seen not just for what you've achieved, but for who you became along the way. The Queen of Pentacles represents grounded abundance, self-worth, and gentle power. She is the version of you that no longer chases validation because she knows what she's made of. She's lived through the work, the waiting, and the worry. She has nurtured both herself and others, often behind the scenes, often without thanks. And now, she stands in her fullness, not seeking applause, but receiving it with humility. There's a wisdom in this kind of arrival. It reminds us that prosperity is not just about wealth, it's about resonance. When your outer world begins to reflect your inner value, that is when true abundance is born. Paired with the Four of Wands, this week may bring a literal or symbolic homecoming. It could be a community event, a long-awaited reunion, a moment of public affirmation. But beneath the occasion lies something greater, a feeling of belonging. Of standing in a space where you are not just accepted but celebrated. The number 888 dances through this energy, reminding us that expansion often comes after integration. The growth you've been working toward is no longer something far away, it's arriving in waves, gently landing in your field like petals on still water. And then there's the Six of Wands, a card of victory, of recognition, of rising. But this card is never about ego. It's about embodiment. You are not being elevated above others, you are being raised into alignment with yourself. The spotlight finds you now not because you demanded it, but because your light has become impossible to ignore. You are the flame that never flickered out. And now, the world begins to reflect the fire you've kept alive, even through seasons that tried to dim it. Still, recognition is only part of the lesson. The deeper wisdom here lies in how you receive this moment. Many of us have been taught to downplay our wins, to deflect compliments, to hide our pride behind false modesty. But what if honoring your glow is not arrogance but reverence? What if celebrating yourself is not a break from humility, but an act of gratitude for the journey you survived? This week, I invite you to celebrate not as a performance, but as a return. Eat your favorite meal with presence. Light a candle not for ritual, but as a symbol of your inner fire. Write a letter to your past self, thanking them for their courage. Post your joy, not for attention, but as a beacon for others who are still in the dark. Celebration is not about excess. It's about energy. It's about saying, I made it through that chapter. And now, I get to breathe in this one. There is a teaching that says the flower doesn't ask permission to bloom, it simply does. And it doesn't question whether the garden approves. It just rises when the sun calls it forward. You are that flower now. You are the result of seasons upon seasons of unseen growth. And this moment, as the petals unfold and the world leans in to witness, that is your reward. That is your mirror. So when the recognition comes, whether loud or quiet, public or private, receive it. Let it land. Let yourself feel it without shrinking. And if you feel inspired, share how you'll celebrate when your miracle arrives. What small or grand gesture will you offer to honor the path you've walked? Speak it aloud. Write it down. Declare it as a promise between you and the universe. Because when you acknowledge your own radiance, you give others permission to do the same. This week, Leo, you are not just being seen. You are being remembered by the world, and more importantly, by yourself. And that, in itself, is the miracle. Leo beloved, you didn't come here to shrink. You came here to shine. And if there's anything this week has shown you, it's that your light is not something to be earned, it's something to be remembered. All throughout this journey, we've walked through the subtle unraveling of what no longer fits, the courage it takes to say goodbye, the clarity that comes from listening inward, and the sheer miracle of being seen exactly as you are. And if you're still here with me now, then a part of you already knows. Your life is not waiting to begin someday, it's happening now. This week has not been about predicting your future. It has been about reminding you of your power to shape it. The truth will rise, whether the world is ready or not. The unexpected opportunity you've sensed may arrive as a whisper or a wave, but it will meet you where you are. And the miracle you hope for, it's not something you chase, it's something you allow. But only when you loosen your grip on what was never truly yours to hold. So I ask you, softly but seriously, what are you still holding on to simply because it's familiar? What belief, what habit, what dynamic is quietly draining your light? And what would happen if you released it, not out of anger, but out of love? Could it be that the freedom you've been seeking isn't outside you but waiting inside the version of you haven't dared to step into? This is your week to take one small but bold step toward that version. Maybe it's a conversation you've avoided. Maybe it's finally sending that email. Maybe it's looking in the mirror and saying, I'm allowed to change. And then doing anything that supports that new identity. You don't need a full plan. You just need a pulse of truth and a willingness to move with it. In your relationships, check in with yourself honestly. Am I showing up from authenticity or performance? What do I need emotionally that I've been afraid to admit? In your work, dare to propose something bold. Your creativity is magnetic now, and aligned action is your golden ticket. Financially, avoid distractions that seduce your impulses. Instead, redirect your energy into learning something new, investing in your well-being, or simply saving space for what truly nourishes. And for your physical and emotional health, slow down, breathe deeper, listen more. Your nervous system has wisdom too. Gentle movement, heart-opening stretches, nourishing meals, and omega-3 rich foods can act as subtle forms of self-leadership. And Leo, celebrate yourself. Not because you've reached the finish line, but because you're showing up differently. That alone is worthy of acknowledgement. Write about it. Speak it out loud. Dance in your kitchen if that's how it wants to move through you. Because when you honor your progress, you magnetize more of it. I want to take a moment to say thank you. From the bottom of my heart. Your presence here is not taken for granted. Every like, every comment, every share and subscription you offer not only supports this channel, eternal mindfulness. It also strengthens the collective energy we're building together. One of authenticity. One of healing. One of rising. And if today's message resonated with you, I invite you to affirm it. Write in the comments, "I'm ready for the miracle." Let the universe feel your readiness. Let your own heart hear your decision. Because this is not just a YouTube video. This is a turning point. A soft revolution. A moment where you said, "I'm not waiting to be crowned. I'll wear the crown I've always carried inside me." Your story, Leo, is yours to tell. No one can write the next chapter for you. But if you're ready, pick up the pen. Choose the title. Maybe it sounds like this: "This time, I chose myself. And everything changed."